This is a phenomenon. Caitlin Clark is a phenomenon. And if I said to any of these people who think Caitlin Clark is not the Rookie of the Year, I'd say, who would you want to start your franchise with? Now, I'm not going to put Asia Wilson in there. I'm just saying between these two. Angel Reese is a wonderful player, but she does not compare to what and who Caitlin Clark is.
It's been a rough couple of days for Angel Reese. Turns out she's been getting the cold shoulder left and right.
Angel Reese played a good statistical game last night in a blowout loss to the Phoenix Mercury. And Angel Reese is actually paying the cost at this moment from attaching her brand to Caitlin Clark's brand.
First, we found out Coach Cheryl Reeve, who, let's be real, ain't our favorite on this channel, straight up rejected Angel at the draft. She was like, nah, girl, we ain't drafting you. Now, I don't know if that was such a genius move, considering the lack of results from the player she did pick. But hey, she gave Angel the Dikembe Mutombo finger wag, no doubt about it. And now, the other person who's turned Angel down is none other than Caitlin Clark.
Man, if someone could just help her figure out how to perform offensively, man, she's going to be a real impact player in the WNBA. Instead, because she compares herself to Caitlin Clark, actually, we're sitting there going like, man, this woman can barely shoot a layup.
Caitlin's been on a tear lately. She just schooled the Seattle Storm the other day. The Fever, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, she's been cooking them all.
And, you know, before last night's game against the Phoenix Mercury, I think in her previous 5 games, she had shot 29% from the field. And unfortunately, I've watched these games because I'm now watching Angel Reese as well. And she can't make, all of her shots are within 2, 3, 4 feet, and she can't make 29% of them. Here's why I'll give Angel Reese credit. And this is why I'm saying she would be getting celebrated had she not attached herself to Caitlin Clark.
And now, the big news is she's gone and signed French Olympic star Gabby Williams, who's making her return to the WNBA. Defensively, Gabby's the real deal, y'all. The Fever could have used her for sure, but get this. Just a few days ago, Angel tried to recruit Gabby to join her, and it's blown up in her face big time. So now that the gold medal game is done, Angel hit up Gabby and was like, hey girl, wanna run it back with the Chicago Sky?
If Angel Reese were disconnected from Caitlin Clark and we just evaluated Angel Reese off of her performance without comparing it to Caitlin Clark, without having this ridiculous Rookie of the Year conversation, we'd all be sitting here saying like, man, what a great rebounder, energy, defensive player Angel Reese is.
And Gabby was like, nah, sis, let's just team up somewhere else. They did me dirty. And there we have it. Angel getting rejected, left and right.
She's smart, and she's a survivor. Last night against the Mercury, instead of shooting layups, she started shooting mid-range shots to get her offense going, and it worked. She ended up with, I think, 19 points last night, something around there, or maybe it was 20, I can't remember. Maybe it was 20 points. But she started hitting the mid-range game and face-up shots because she has no chance of getting those layups off against Brittany Griner. But Angel Reese has such an awkward left-handed shot. She shoots it from her shoulder. She doesn't shoot it at eye level.
Tough break. Gabby Williams has just joined the Seattle Storm, but here's the interesting part. They actually acquired her through a trade with the LA Sparks back in 2022.
You said that Gabby Williams was the most complete player in basketball. Do you still believe that?
I do, men and women. Gabby Williams is a stud.
During that season, she was a starter in every game, averaging 7.5 points and 5 rebounds. Pretty impressive, right? She also earned a spot on the all-defensive second team, which helped the Storm make it to the WNBA semifinals, although they fell short against the Aces. Fast forward to last year, she re-signed with the Storm mid-season after dealing with a concussion while playing in France. Before suffering a stress fracture, which are never easy, she played 10 games, averaging 8.4 points and 3.8 rebounds. With the Olympics taking place in France this year, Williams chose to sit out the beginning of the WNBA season to train with the French national team. She came very close to leading them to a gold medal. That game-tying shot at the end would have counted if her foot hadn't been on the line. Still, she had an outstanding performance, leading France with 152 points and averaging 5.8 assists, including a team high of 19 assists. They were just shy of breaking Team USA's 60-game Olympic winning streak. Angel Reese isn't heading to the sky after all. She's actually making her return to the WNBA to join the playoff chase. It's wild, right?
That's why her stuff gets swatted and when she heaves it at the basket. But her biggest problem is the Caitlin Clark comparison. She's being destroyed by chasing the Rookie of the Year thing, which she has no chance. So she wants to be a dynamic offensive player, and she's just not right now. She's a great rebounder, great energy, very good player. But comparing herself and attaching herself to Caitlin Clark is actually destroying Angel Reese.
The Seattle Storm just got a serious wake-up call from the Fever, and after that game, I was left wondering, are the Fever actually on their way to the WNBA Finals?
I got to my spots, and she can find anyone pretty much anywhere, so I knew when I got it just to do my job and knock it down, and it was fun.
Looking at the competition, especially with Caitlin Clark and the Fever, I think they could take down almost anyone. Well, except for the Aces, who are pretty loaded. But let's be honest, the Aces didn't face this version of Caitlin Clark earlier in the season. They caught the Fever during a tough stretch in their schedule. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. And here's another twist. Cheryl Reeve is also saying no to Angel Reese.
Where Chicago Sky rookie forward Angel Reese was ejected from the game last night against the New York Liberty after drawing consecutive technical fouls. The ejection happened after Reese was called for her fifth foul and was, quote, disrespectfully addressing, end quote, official Charles Watson. Angel Reese is a rising star in the WNBA, drafted 7th overall by the Sky 2 months ago. On Monday, Reese addressed the media following that controversial technical foul on her teammate, Kennedy Carter, who shoved Caitlin Clark.
Reese has been tearing it up, transitioning from a top college player to a real WNBA all-star, and there's some debate about that, but who cares?
Reese made it clear that fans are watching women's basketball not because of, quote, one player, but because of her as well. Today, the WNBA rescinded the second technical upon further review, according to a league source, which does not mean much at this point in my estimation.
She was picked 7th overall by the Chicago Sky in April, while the Minnesota Lynx traded down to avoid selecting her.
The Caitlin Clark situation where Kennedy Carter side hipped her, basically checked her with a, side hip move and whatever, knocking her to the ground. And it was national news because Caitlin Clark has been taking quote unquote abuse since she's arrived in the WNBA. That kind of story gained national attention. It was something that was debated on my day job, First Take, on ESPN every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to noon.
Reeve chose not to draft Reese because she felt Reese wouldn't mesh well with the team's style. It makes me wonder, does Cheryl Reeve only want LGBTQ players on her team? Just a thought, since she's part of that community. Reeve believed that bringing in Reese would disrupt Sylvia Fowles' role, so she opted for Alyssa Peely instead. Peely is averaging just 6.4 minutes a game, while Reese is practically a starter. There's a lot of chatter about whether Reeve should take that step or not, right? Meanwhile, Cardozo seems to be just watching while Reeve is in charge. It looks like the Chicago Sky's main focus is on that double-double goal. Honestly, if I were a fan, I'd feel a bit let down. Reeve also had the honor of coaching Team USA at the Olympics, where she snagged a gold medal. But here's the kicker. Reeve saw Caitlin Clark, Reese, and the crew take down Team USA at the WNBA All-Star Game last month, marking the only loss for the Americans all summer. Wild, huh? If Reeve continues as Team USA's head coach, leaving Reese off the Olympic roster for the 2028 games in LA might be tough. Until then, she could be second-guessing her choices while Reese keeps shining. Can you believe that Cheryl Reeve actually traded away her position just to keep Angel Reese off the team? That's a bold move. I'm not sure that was the best decision. We've had our discussions about how Angel Reese's stats might be a bit inflated, but you'd think the Lynx would at least give her a chance, right? But nope, Reeve didn't want her anywhere near the squad.
When she's on the basketball floor. Plain and simple. But we want to make it a debate, and I think that that's just to get clicks. And look, Angel Reese, there's nothing that she does where you go, did you see her? Other than she plays really, really hard, and I liken her game to Moses Malone. Moses Malone was relentless. So it's not that I don't appreciate who she is or how she plays. There is no one like Caitlin Clark.
Honestly, I'm not a fan of Cheryl Reeve at all. On another note, I believe Reeve, Dawn Staley, and Gino Auriemma, the Olympic WNBA team, deliberately left Caitlin Clark off the roster. She deserved a spot over Chelsea Gray or Diana Taurasi, especially with the numbers backing me up during the Olympics. Cheryl Reeve seems to have her own agenda and hasn't been very kind to Caitlin Clark. It looks like she wasn't a fan of Angel Reese either. Rejected.
You know, honestly, I'm just focused on this right now, one thing at a time. Can't always just be moving on to the next. My focus is right here.
Caitlin Clark recently sparked speculation about her future in basketball, particularly regarding her potential involvement with the Unrivaled League, a new league owned by Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier.
You're trying to change the future of women's basketball forever with this new league that you're starting. Tell me about how Unrivaled has come together, and when you think about the concept, what does the future mean? Is this going to become the premier league for women's basketball?
About Unrivaled, it's going to be 3-on-3, 1-on-1, top 30 players. We're going to play 10 weeks in Miami during the W's off season, so we don't have a 7-week gap. And what's most exciting about it is it gives opportunities for players to play at home, not go overseas, build their brands, and make 6 figures.
Clark appeared happy and excited, which led many to believe she might be inclined to join the Unrivaled League. However, there are doubts about whether she truly needs to play in that league.
She didn't take her 5th year at Iowa. She wants to, try her game at the next level against the best players in the league. I don't really think it's a serious consideration for her to play there, but in the Big Three. But obviously, this gives a different kind of leverage.
As some believe that both Nike and the WNBA may prefer to keep her out of it, possibly offering her financial incentives to do so, as the risks associated with increased playing time could be a concern.
And again, we cannot understate the timing of this with the media rights deal being up next year, how she has completely driven eyeballs to the women's game this year, not only for Iowa games, but we've seen it across the women's college landscape. She is vitally important in a way that no other player in the women's game has ever been.
The Unrivaled League is structured around 3v03 basketball, which may not align with Clark's preferences, further suggesting she might decline their offer. Critics have raised doubts about the motivations behind the Unrivaled League, especially since its owners previously did not support Clark's inclusion in Team USA.
Whenever that was announced that the Big Three made an offer to her that was going to be like 5x whatever she was going to be making in the WNBA.
We are taking off. I think the thing that you touched on was first 30 players, top 30 of year one are going to have a piece of equity in this league. So as we continue on, hopefully it only gets bigger and better. And
this has led to questions about the authenticity of their current interest in her and her fans. While there is enthusiasm for women establishing their own league, there remains skepticism about its authenticity.
I think the pay is going to be like, it's the highest average salary in women's sports in history. So
how many years? How many years do we have money right now for the funding for it to be the highest average salary for women's sports?
So we have funding. We have funding for the next 3.
Let's go.
Clark's skills are considered more fitting for the WNBA, where she has already made a notable impact. Many in the community hope she will steer clear of the Universal League, as her standing and future in basketball are perceived to be more promising within the established framework.
And as far as playing overseas, I love my time in China and Russia, and I don't know if you guys know, the WNBA has prioritization now. So basically, if you're late because you play overseas, you'll be suspended the entire season.
I don't really get to stand up for myself. I have great teammates. I have a great support system. I got my hometown. I got my family that stands up for me. I don't really get to speak out on things just because I just try to ignore, and I just try to stand strong. Like, I've been through so much. I've seen so much. I've been attacked so many times.
The Sky faced another tough loss, and it feels like they're really struggling. Honestly, it's starting to feel like the Sky are just giving up. I've never seen a team give up as obviously as the Sparks are right now.
Death threats, I've been sexualized, I've been threatened, I've been so many things, and I've stood strong every single time. And I just try to stand strong for my teammates because I don't want them to see me down and like not be there for them. So
They've completely checked out, and Derek Ami has looked totally uninterested for the last several games. She even seemed disengaged during the All-Star game. Looking at the standings after today's loss, the Sky are now 11 and 16. They're only a game and a half ahead of the Atlanta Dream, who are on a 2-game winning streak and are really trying to turn things around. I'm not going to say the Sky will definitely miss the playoffs, but it's definitely a possibility. As for the Mercury, Kat Copper took a break and had a rough shooting night, going just 2 of 11 from the field. She didn't keep firing away, which was a bit surprising. On the other hand, Brittany Griner did her usual thing, and Diana Taurasi shot well too, even though it felt like she could have been even better than her 2 of 8 performance. Billings had a solid debut with 13 points, and Sue Sutton played well. Overall, the Mercury had a decent showing. Honestly, they could have won this game by a huge margin, but there were moments when the Sky made it interesting.
I'm gonna go out and do whatever it takes to win, and every single night, my teammates rely on my energy. So being able to continue the energy, even if we're down, even if we're up, that's what I do.
The Sky managed to cut it down to 7 at one point, but then the Mercury bounced back to a 22-point lead, then down to 12, and back to 20 again before the final buzzer. The game was one of those nights when the Mercury just couldn't find their rhythm. Each time the score tightened, they'd say, "Let's concentrate," and then they'd start scoring again. On the Sky side, Kennedy Carter looked fit, but had a hard time getting into the flow. Their biggest challenge? 3-point shooting. Just look at the stats. 0 for 14 from beyond the arc. This team has a track record of struggling with 3-pointers. It's as if the 3-point line doesn't even exist for them. How is it possible for a team to play an entire game without sinking a single 3-pointer? Rachel Banham faced another rough game, and while Carter has been decent offensively, especially in the paint, Cardoso is beginning to show some promise. She went 6 for 7 from the field, but her rebounding definitely needs work. Angel Reese is a different story. Plus, minus stats don't tell the whole tale. Sure, she made a key shot late against the Aces, but overall, she had a tough outing. In the fourth quarter, there was a stretch where she was hitting jumpers consistently. She collected 10 offensive rebounds, and regardless of who holds the record, be it Sylvia Fowles or Tina Charles, Angel is on track to break it. With about 35 minutes of play each game, she's bound to grab 6 or 7 defensive boards just by being in the right place.
A study by a sports market research firm found that the sport with the highest percentage of its fans influenced by sponsorships is the WNBA. That number is more than 81%. The study by SBRnet also found that among major sports, the WNBA has the highest percentage of social media users among its fans, and that social media is where they go to connect with leagues, teams, and players. All of it underscores the tremendous growth potential for the WNBA, and why a player like Angel Reese is perfect for this moment.
I believe she could average around 14 rebounds a game, which might even be a conservative estimate.
Yeah, work to do. I mean, that's what any team, when you start out your season, and you just want to see how well you can come together, gel together, and find that chemistry. And we're getting there. We're getting better with understanding what our offense is, what our defense is, what the identities are.
Angel Reese's consistency has been a big part of the team's identity. The star rookie and recently named All-Star recorded her 13th straight double-double against the Storm, breaking the previous record set by hometown legend Candace Parker for most consecutive double-doubles in league history.
The Sky find themselves in a tricky position. They have the league's top offensive rebounders surrounded by players who struggle to score. It's tough to watch. Kennedy Carter is skilled, but it's unrealistic to expect her to shine when the roster is filled with players who can't put points on the board.
I see you put your arm around Kennedy Carter late in the game. I see that leadership. You've done it for years. What is the message you're telling her? Because she was terrific today.
Hey, me and Kennedy, we have a different kind of relationship. We've been through a lot of the same things. A lot of people have misconceptions about us. We understand each other, and that's why I love her. She can get to me, I can get to her. She a dog, too. She came out and did so much for us tonight.